Just you need some gas on. I was only 16.
All right, let's get into it. I want to welcome everybody back to the show. It's Man Tomorrow here. I want to thank y'all for coming through. Make sure you like the video among coming in. Today we're going to be talking about this specific video right here, so that way you can be able to see even people who claim to be wanting to be reasonable when they come to a conversation. The moment that they can't do things in a certain type of light, it just falls apart. The conversation falls apart because not everybody brings an equal level of understanding about the issues to the actual table itself. Now, this stuff isn't hard. Like, you can learn or keep up with multitudes of things in society. But when it comes down to specifically learning about things that are going on within your environment and actually getting involved with that, that's just a background that people specifically choose not to do, not to have, not to be a part of on purpose. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you what happens when somebody comes to the conversation with policies, with statistics, and the other person don't. Doesn't matter how the conversation starts. We just know how the conversation is going to end up being by the end of the conversation itself. So without further ado, I'm going to start playing this video here. And then multitudes of times I'm going to stop the video and respond to certain things that are said by one group or another, because there's something that he said wrong here, and It was cleaned up later on. So without further ado, let's go.
Known for a very long time, and he's always said very, very extreme and conservative things. Well, he now has one of the top conservative shows in the city of Atlanta, working for WSB. You can check out his long and extensive bio. But I have on the program conservative talk radio personality, host Word on the Street, Shelley Winter. Shelley, good day.
Good day, my brother. Good day. I'm so proud of you, my man. I love you.
I love you back, man. And listen, we may get into an argument today. I hope we don't. I hope we're able to have.
Oh, we will.
I know, man.
It's okay. It's okay.
We go back. You've been on my radio show. I've had to kick you out of my radio show because I was damn near about to hit you. But I'm glad you're on the show today. Let me bring your attention to something, because I have to start with an almost point of agreement with you. Some months back, you actually had some words about Donald Trump, how he came after Governor Kemp. You did not like how Donald Trump came after the Republican governor of Georgia. And you were known to be a Trump guy. You were known to be generally supportive of Donald Trump. And I'm sure many people in the Trumpite cult, they came against you. I'm just sure of that. But you said that, and then you did something even more extreme, in my opinion, and was very public about it. During the very contentious U.S. Senate election in Georgia, where everyone was biting their nails, trying to figure out, would Ossoff win? Would Warnock win? Would Loeffler win? Or would Perdue win? You, as a conservative commentator and a radio guy, you came out and said that you are actually voting for Dr. Raphael Warnock for the U.S. Senate and voting for Jon Ossoff for the U.S. Senate. I want you to revisit that for this conversation and tell us why, as a conservative, Trump-supporting, Republican-talking individual, you decided to vote for and publicly announce you were supporting two Democrats for the U.S. Senate.
Well, first to the, thanks for having me, but first to the Kemp Trump battle, if you will. I live in Georgia. I'm more concerned with who my governor is than a guy who had just lost the presidency. So what Trump was saying about Kemp really bothered me, because you're already out of the White House, or you're going to be out of the White House. And I didn't need you criticizing a governor who still had a race coming up, which is going to be a bloodbath here in Georgia. I mean, a knife fight here in Georgia between him and Stacey Abrams. So I didn't need that war, one. Number two, again, I'm a Brian Kemp. I'm loyal to Brian Kemp. He's always told me what he's going to do. He's done it. Everything he said he was going to run on, what he ran on, he accomplished, or he tried to accomplish. But I live in Georgia. I'm more concerned with who my governor is than who a candidate for president who was running for re-election, who at that time had just lost. Then I don't really care, and I don't need you stepping into a Georgia race only because your feelings are hurt because the governor didn't do what you thought he should do. And I've been telling Republicans that, who like Vernon Jones of all people, over Brian Kemp, because the governor then shut down the election and changed the outcome, which is patently absurd that conservatives who stand on constitutional principles want a governor to break the Constitution and do something he's not constitutionally able to do. So that's the first thing.
Okay, let me stop you there. You have just made more sense in roughly 3 minutes than your whole damn party has made in about 3 years. You have to understand.
I'm trying to bring. No, we've made a lot of sense in 3 or 4 years. We have. I'm not gonna take that shot. I'm not gonna let you shoot the whole party down. We have made a lot of sense.
It's not the Republican Party, brother. It is Trump's party. But go ahead.
Oh, I'll let you talk about the Senate. It absolutely is. 75 million votes. It ought to be his party. It definitely is his party. That's without question. But to the point of voting for Warnock and Ossoff, I was just mad. I had said early in the summer during that general election, or a jungle primary, if you will, that don't go after first Warnock's religion or his preaching, not his religion, his preaching. I was totally against that. I said, don't do it. And they did it anyway. And I thought it was my statement in that race was I knew Warnock would only be there until next year, so I knew it wasn't a 6-year term. So I can tie in my mind, I could tie the Senate up for 2 years and then take back that seat in 2022. Hopefully, prayerfully, but that's the plan. But my message was to the Republican Party is you can't continue to just throw things out here to move the base. Bring us policy. What are you going to do? I go out every day and I tell African Americans, vote Republican, and here's why. Now you're just doing the exact same thing the Democrats do. Is the Democrats say, don't vote for them, they're Republican. They're racist. And the Republicans say, don't vote for the other side because they're radical leftist socialists. Well, that doesn't help my day to day. What I need things that help my day to day. You're going to tell me you're going to cut spending? Actually cut spending. You want tax cuts? Actually cut taxes.
Now, everything that he just said does the actual opposite effect of what he's actually saying. And he can't be that dumb not to know that. Mike?
Yeah, on one hand, he didn't like what Trump was saying about Governor Kemp. And then on the other hand, he can't make the justification for actually supporting the party with all the infighting in it and the lack of representation. So if you're saying to vote on policy, what policy did the party even have that would, generate interest in Black votes in the first place? And number two, the party doesn't have a platform that you can identify with if you're coming from the outside, if you're Black. So there really is no, the point is not really being landed on the base that he's trying to aim for, and to kind of dance around the original point of, well, what's the point of the party, man? It's, it's telling of who he is and what he supports.
Yeah. Nagone.
I totally agree exactly what Mike said. I think that's pretty well said right there. I don't really have much more to add to that, to be quite frank with you.
All right, cool. Let's keep going.
These are the things that I want the Republicans to do, because I think we can start moving, particularly African Americans and Hispanics, over to our side if we push policy over just name calling and dog whistles with radical socialism.
So that's why you voted for Warnock. Why did you vote for Ossoff?
I like Ossoff. He came on my show. I'll be honest right here. This is completely self-serving, and voting for the record, voting is completely self-serving. I don't vote for a community. I don't vote for a group of people. I vote for Shelley. Shelley was on the radio. Ossoff came on every time we invited him. Purdue never even answered us back. I wasn't going to reward that. My bread and butter, the way I put food on my table, is by providing content. So when I call a guy to help me provide content and he responds every time to come on, and the guy that I'm supposed to vote for just totally ignores me, I'm going to make you.
All right, so let me say this first.
Mike?
Yeah, so if it's self-serving, then why do you need more diversity in your party then? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to say something like that as to why, you want to bring Blacks and Latinos over, but then say, well, I don't vote for a community, I vote for myself. Shelley. Interesting name for a conservative.
And a man at that. But go ahead and go.
It's just showing you these guys, when they really come up against, someone who knows what's really going on, good questions, these guys have nothing to say. This is a ridiculous response. I don't know what more to say to that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So let's keep going.
First of all, I'm actually glad you came out and said, hey, I'm voting for Warnock and I'm voting for Ossoff. Okay. It made a lot of news in the state. And you did provide some commentary and also an interview about why you did that. I disagree with your why. I completely disagree with your why. And I understand your why is authentic to you. But when I vote, I do actually vote for a community. And sometimes I will vote for a community that may not be the best for perhaps an industry that I'm a part of, or a connection that I have financially. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm willing to vote for the community that means more to me than something that I may have been connected to, or an industry that I'm a part of. I understand the matrix of politics can get complicated sometimes, but let's be very clear what they did to you, brother. Let's be very clear, okay? You have one of the top political conservative shows in the state of Georgia. You have Republicans, conservatives, Trumpites who listen to your program on a regular basis. Okay? There was a lot of dissension inside of the Republican Party about voting, period. There were the myths about the voting machines were from China, it's all kind of crazy stuff, right? You were in a place to say, listen, here's the reality and here's why you should or should not vote. They ignored you. I heard an interview you did. You said, okay, well, Loeffler kind of played with you a little bit, but never got on the show. Purdue just ignored you. Don't you think it's problematic because they went on other conservative talk shows? You happen to be the black guy, and you have a lot more listeners.
Okay, so he's admitting that they went on the other shows. And watch how he tries to turn it in a little bit.
Than a whole lot of the white conservative talkers in the city. Don't you think that's indicative not of them only, but of a culture inside of the Republican Party?
No.
And hold on,
not at all. Not at all. No, I know where you're going. No, not at all.
I'm not finished, brother. No, you're going to let it happen today. Let me tell you the reason they didn't come on your show.
I'm answering no.
Okay, let me tell you the reason they didn't come on your show, brother.
All right.
They didn't come on your show because you put it out.
Okay, keep in mind, he already admitted that they went to other conservative outlets that just didn't come to his. He already said that. So watch how he try to flips it around and try to explain it away.
There, that you were going to talk to them about what they would do for Black Americans or Black Georgians. You put that out there. That's why they didn't come on your program. Now tell me I'm lying.
I'll tell you, yes, that's not true. Purdue didn't do any radio. Purdue did one interview on radio, I think.
Did he just admit a little while ago that they went on other conservative programs? This wasn't even 3 minutes ago he just said that.
In late October. Other than that, Purdue did no media. So in that case, I'm lumped in with everybody else. Kelly Loeffler did, I think, a show here on WSB towards mid-October, and that was it. Both of them did not do a lot of media, which was a mistake on their part. But no, I'm not going to put it at that point that's the reason. Not at all. The reason they didn't do it is the same reason they didn't go on Martha Zala's show in North Georgia, which is right there in Central Gainesville.
He just admitted that they went to other places, just not his. Now he's naming all these shows that don't nobody know about.
No, MOT, to his point, he is right. They did not show up to a lot of shows. That they were basically in hiding because of the media onslaught on them was too much.
Correct.
Because Loeffler and Purdue were getting hammered, and they refused because he didn't show up to the debate either, right? Purdue didn't show up to the debate.
Yeah. That's true.
So to that point, MOT, he is right. However, he doesn't want to admit that they snubbed him as the only Black conservative media in Georgia. He doesn't want to admit to that.
Yeah, so there's two things that's going on here. He admitted to interviews that did happen that did not include him, and then he's saying that they didn't do that much media to kind of cover himself. So it can't be both. It's either they went on people's shows or they didn't. And it looked like they did. He admitted that they did. And then he's saying, well, look at all these other people who shows didn't go on. Like, no. If you're the biggest voice in the area and they didn't come on your show and they went on the other people's shows. And it just don't make any sense.
And the progressive showed up to his show, though.
Yes. Every time that he asked.
Yeah.
Everything. Nicole?
Yeah, so it really was more about his ego than anything else. And Richie's kind of nailing him on that, saying, okay, you're not really standing for much. You're just saying this is feeding your kind of your media scrum, but yet you're not really standing on any real solid position or any real stance or any real policy stance. And you're here talking about policies before, yet you're not speaking about any policies. Totally blew the sky out the water. Just you see what this is all about. So anyway, that's it. Move on.
All right.
The reason why they didn't do those shows either. So there's a bunch of shows that they didn't do. They didn't do John
Let me bring your
Frederick's show.
attention to something. All right, brother.
Okay.
I got receipts.
Okay, good.
Let me bring your attention to an interview you did with a man named Mr. Maynard Eaton that we know very well. On that show, and brother, I got the clip.
No, I know you. I did. No, hold on. Let's be clear. I did put that out there as the reason why I wanted them to come on. I'm answering your question to say that's not the reason they didn't come on. That reason that I wanted them to talk about black people is not the reason they didn't come on. No, not at all. Because if it were that reason, I would have seen them all over media during that election and also during the runoff, and I didn't see that happening.
Do you think? And that is interesting to me because I truly believe they did not come on your show. Because you said I'm going to talk about a black agenda, and they weren't trying to talk about a black agenda. They
were at the Black Agenda launch. They were at the Lift Every Voice. Well, I'm saying they were there.
Come on, man. You call that damn Trump rally, Black People for Trump, whatever y'all called it. You call that a Black Agenda tour?
Well, that's where he announced it, is what I'm saying. That's where he announced.
Wasn't it called like the Platinum Plan or something like that?
It was called the Platinum Plan, but I'm saying that I mixed them up. But the point is that that's where they were there. There was no reason.
Come on, Shelly, you're smarter than that. Donald Trump.
If I felt that way, I've been honest with you the whole time.
I know, but you still, to me, brother, to me, you are smarter than that. But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
And if that is the reason,
the Platinum Plan. Let's go to the Platinum Plan.
We're about to start talking policy, and look what happens. Go back a little bit. We're about to start talking about policy now. Look at what happens when you start talking about policy.
The whole time.
I know, but you still, to me, brother, to me, you are smarter than that. But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
And if that is the reason,
the Platinum Plan. Let's go to the Platinum Plan.
Oh, that's in the past. Trump.
No, we don't talk about it. You listen, brother, we're talking about it. The Platinum Plan was a rule, right? Don't you get what the Platinum Plan was about? You understand what that was about, right?
Absolutely. I got Juneteenth as a holiday, but I'm still crying for reparations. You want to talk about being stooped? Yeah. Really? You really want to talk about being duped, dog? I mean, I got a federal holiday of a date that affected one state in honesty, and they're calling it a national. Hold on.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
You see how Will's about to talk about the Platinum Plan and what was actually in it, and how he just pivoted off to a whole nother discussion that had nothing to do with actual policy itself. We know a federal holiday doesn't mean anything and towards what was supposed to be promised in the so-called Platinum Plan. Mike?
Yeah, and that's the defect, the deflection is to let's not talk about the Platinum Plan. Let's talk about Juneteenth. Well, we wasn't talking about Juneteenth. We were talking about policy. Why do you not want to talk about the policy, the one-page policy that none of the black conservatives got on? No support from Tim Scott. No support from anybody from the right at all, and there was no Mitch McConnell support for it. Why don't you want to talk about that?
Nagon?
Policy is nothing that they're going to speak on. They're never going to speak on policy. That's it. You've seen it. Culture warriors don't speak on policy. Period.
All right, let's keep going. Because he's going to do what people do in the manosphere toward the back half of this clip. And you're going to see why conversations can't go on, because people don't come to the conversation with the same level of background information about a specific topic. And you're going to see this continuously go on throughout this conversation. And this is why, if you're not talking about policy or even statistics or how to move things forward, then you're just a culture warrior, period. That's all it is.
So,
right.
Shelly,
I'm still waiting for preparation.
Yeah,
and I'm still waiting for preparation.
That's right. So, brother, listen to me. Shelly, listen.
I mean, come on.
Listen, on
we
this
can go back to the guy in law, so we can talk about the guy that's there.
Shelly, on this program, I have already criticized the whole notion of Juneteenth as a holiday. And I'll say very clearly, I don't do what I do every day to send politicians to D.C. to give me a holiday. Now, it's not a bad thing to have a federal holiday. It is a bad thing if you think that's a win or pushes a policy agenda, because it does not. All right. But remember, the same Republicans that gave you that Juneteenth are the same Republicans that are anti-HR 1, anti the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, anti the George Floyd Policing and Accountability Act. So don't tell me that the Juneteenth holiday is a win.
No, I'm not saying it's a win or a loss. I'm just saying don't go back to 2020 of November 2020 and an outreach to Black Americans and say that was the biggest joke, and then tell me now when 95% of Black Americans voted for Joe Biden, that you control the House, and what you got out of it in the first 70 days is Juneteenth as a holiday. I don't even remember Juneteenth being a push for a holiday. Now I know Bob Johnson.
It was a push.
No, I'm talking about a push. I'm not talking about
not
push
right,
by
not a national push,
but it was
right.
I'm talking about
it was.
Yeah, it was proposed.
It was
Absolutely.
Let me go back to another.
You understand what I mean? I didn't see it on Black
absolutely,
Twitter.
man. Come on, man. You know I do. Let me go back to a policy issue, because I've heard you talk about the economy of Black people, the ecosystem of our financial reality, right? If that's really your thing, if the economy of Black folks is really your thing as a Republican, I want to read some stats to you about the economy of Black folks. And I want you to respond to these stats.
Right.
Under Democratic presidents, Black families' incomes grew on an average of $900 a year, but only grew by $142 under Republican presidents. Black unemployment fell by a net of 8% across 26 years of Democratic leadership, but it actually went up a net percentage of 13.7 during the same amount of time as Republican presidencies, or during Republican presidencies. Across the years, Democratic leadership, Black poverty declined by 23.6 percentage points, but grew by 3 percentage points when Republicans held the White House. Now, you can get all of that information from the United States Census Bureau.
Right.
So
can I answer you, Rob? Can I answer you?
Well,
I know where you're going.
Let me pose the question. If economy is your number one driving political force, is it not time for people like you to consider supporting at least the policies that equate to a more equitable outcome for Black folks, rather than the policies that do not?
Absolutely not. And the fallacy in what you said is, you see where you're a very brilliant man, and I love you to death. You see how you mix up the term Republican president, and then every now and then you threw in Republican leadership?
No, sir.
Presidents don't.
No. I do not want
you
you
did
to.
that.
No, brother,
I know what I'm saying. I want to be clear. I'm answering your question.
But I want to make sure everyone understands, when I say Republican leadership, I am still referring to Republican presidencies. I only changed the terminology so that I would not sound redundant. Go ahead.
Okay, no problem. So let me answer your question and not sound redundant. The fact of the matter is, presidents don't write policy. So what you have to do is go back and look at what you're listen to me. It's true. I mean, I have the Constitution.
They do push policy, brother. They
push policy. I said they don't write policy. You tried it again.
Stop it, MLT.
Based on their policy.
I said.
So what was the platinum plan if it wasn't policy?
That's what I'm saying.
What was that? What was the immigration policy? What was what was all of this stuff about the trade war in with China? What that was policy. That was the president's policy.
Nobody passed it in the House or Senate.
Executive orders were policy. They translated into policy later. Banning of these Muslim states that happen to be non-white. Yeah, it's policy.
Yeah.
It's down. You see that they just delve into in the kind of babbling fools.
No, I mean, this is the sort of reaction that you get in the manosphere from people who are trying to defend failed leadership, but at the same time make it seem like they're more intellectual than they're not. And they, not understanding what executive orders are and the executive branch is, and, you know, meeting with, Kim Jong-un, it's like, well, what was that about? They were trying to establish something, but that came from the top. That didn't come from the bottom. putting, building a wall and diverting funds from the defense budget in order to build a wall, that was all part of policy, brother.
And executive orders and stuff.
Yeah.
So given this deliberate misunderstanding, it's going to get a little bit worse as we go on. Because he gave out the facts and the statistics, and look how he tried to word salad his way through this. It's very important.
Come on, Doug. You're gonna ask me to answer your question?
Go ahead.
What you have to do is go back and look at your census numbers and see who ran the House when those numbers changed. And what you will find when you do your research, as your fans so happily tell you do all the time.
He brought research to the table, and he didn't. So we're just gonna keep going.
You find that under Republican leadership of the House and Senate, African Americans do better economically. Under Republican leadership of House and Senate, because the president does say, I want to do this. Picking up.
Right after he just laid down the statistics, he just did a complete spin move. A complete spin move. Like, he read to him the statistics about the years where things are going good or bad, and he just changed it to something else. Unbelievable. And it's like, how are you supposed to come to the table with people who don't know the basis of what the argument is? And every time you get cornered, things just all of a sudden just start to get wishy-washy, and all of a sudden facts that was just read don't even mean what they just meant 2 minutes ago. Mike.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this yesterday with Mr. Tatum, right? Biggest black male conservative voice in social media, 1.6 million subscribers, couldn't accept the statistics and the data that was presented to him, and did a complete backspin. This guy, Shelley, today, biggest black conservative voice in Georgia, couldn't handle the data and statistics. Wash, rinse, and repeat. This is the playbook.
Unreal. Nagam?
Gentlemen, you guys are breaking this down. I mean, this is getting worse by the minute. It's going to get even worse. So their playbook is a comic book. There's really not much all I can say. This thing is speaking for itself. Gentlemen.
All right.
No, that's not all the president does. Come on, Shelley. Okay. Let me go ahead and read some additional stats.
He doesn't spend the time, nor does he write laws.
Thank you for your rebuttal.
It's a silly argument to say under Republican.
Well, let me go ahead and give you the rest of the argument.
Right.
Let me go ahead and give you the rest of the argument.
Black people do well. Black people do well when their schools work.
Let me give you the rest of the argument, sir. You don't have to try to bloviate your way out of this truth that you're about to get.
Here we go.
What happens when somebody's scared?
Here we go. Conservative his way all the way through the conversation. Won't stop talking.
Of the rebuttal. You ready?
There's no. This is what happened. How do black people do well? Right.
Number one, Shelley, do you mind citing the source of your information as it relates to the House and the Senate?
The moment of truth. One person comes to the table with statistics and policies, and the other person, let's see what he says.
And I didn't give you that. I said go back and do your research.
Well, where did you do your research?
I listen to me. Don't do it, Mark Lamont Hill. This is what y'all do.
No, but
you
wait a minute, brother.
He just cited research, and then he told him to go back to do even more research when he didn't bring anything to the table. What's going on?
I mean, we heard this.
Okay, so the person who gave the stats asked you specifically about for you to cite your stats, and then you tell the person with the stats to go get even more stats when you didn't bring those stats to the table yourself. What's going on? Like, these are people you got to work with.
This is the biggest conservative, black male conservative voice in the state of Georgia, a swing state. And then you have Brandon Tatum, 1.6 million subscribers. The playbook, man.
Yeah.
They all got the same email.
Yeah. It's gonna get a little bit worse, so let's keep going.
You started your argument by saying under Republican presidents, X, Y, and Z happens negatively to African Americans.
Correct.
Under
That's
Democrat
fact.
president, that's what you said.
That's
I'm
fact.
merely saying back to you that presidents, one, don't spend money, two, don't write policy and sign laws.
So you don't have the source for
They
the
don't
House
write
and
laws.
Senate
That's what you're going to
proclamation
do.
you just made.
I didn't make a proclamation. I'm telling you a constitutional fact, and you know it. What you're trying to do now,
fact. We're talking
that the president doesn't write laws.
Shelley, does it hurt when you do that? Shelley, does it hurt?
No, I'm saying does a president write laws? No. They don't.
Does it hurt
Spend
when
money? No, they don't.
Shelley,
You can
Shelley.
sidebar this all you
Okay,
want.
all right. Shelley,
You
let me go to read you some
You
facts. because I
understand?
know
Read
It
this
has
out.
to hurt, brother, when you
Okay,
try to
sure.
pull facts
A
out
black
your ass
American-
like that.
a black
But
American-
here's the reality. Here's the reality,
They gotta
Shelley.
go 3 minutes. They gotta do a show in it.
Okay, real quick. Here's the reality. Number one, you're incorrect about the House and Senate proclamation as it relates to black and brown people in the United States. 100% of all policies that you're talking about has to be signed by the President of the United
Fine,
States.
not written. I didn't say that.
Sir.
I didn't say that. I said written. Written.
Okay,
written.
sir. Just allow me to finish the rebuttal. And here are the policies that are connected to the more equitable outcomes for black people in the United States of America. Number one, increase of funding by 588% to higher education. Increase of funding by 314% as it relates to job training skills. Increase of
You
funding.
gotta get the higher education. You gotta get the higher education.
Hold on, sir.
Well, you got
Increase
reading
of
scores.
funding.
You got low reading scores. You got
Dude, you can't filibuster your way through everything. Remember, you don't bring anything to the table here. The other guy is. If these are your points, you just would have made them during your turn. Like, this is what happens actually when people come to the actual floor with no information. You start reading off the statistics, and the person who brings nothing to the table actually agrees with all the things that sound reasonable. And then they disagree with the things that they don't like, even though they brought nothing to the table, period. This is something that happens in the manosphere a lot. Too much, by the way. Crazy. Mike?
Now, just go ahead, please.
All right. Justin Martin for the $5 super sticker.
Increase of funding by 118%
That's all fine and
as
good.
it relates
Get
to
to college.
reentry programs.
Get to
Okay.
college.
All right,
Stay out
those
of
are
jail. Those are the
just
facts,
some
right? So
policies.
all black people are coming out of jail for reentry.
No, I
Come
just
on,
named
man.
to you higher education, job training skills, and
Job training
reentry.
skills and
You
reentry,
only
right.
focus on the reentry
No,
because
I
you feel that's your only win, brother. Come on, man. The party is
on higher
fair.
education. I focused on higher education first. I said you got to get there first. You got to get there, so you got to come out of good schools. What about
Okay,
the failed
let's go.
schools?
Let's go to
So-
that.
so
You got a
if-
minute left.
Let's make
The
the
eight
argument
states-
this.
Shelley, the 8
Let's make-
states that
Let's
have
make
the
the
worst,
argument this.
sir, the 8 states that have the worst academically performing K through 12 education
Are
have
Republican
one
run
thing.
states. Yeah, one Republican run states. Absolutely. Go ahead.
That's
good.
great, bro. That
And,
is
and now let's flip it and say the 5 top states in highest crime were Democrat-run states. So
Here we go.
What about Chicago?
Yeah, what about Chicago, Baltimore? What we got?
Now, if you go back to yesterday, Brandon Tatum said the same exact thing, word
The
for
same
word.
thing. Word for word.
Now, I don't know that
It's
radio
the
station that.
playbook.
Yeah, I don't know that radio station
Sorry.
that he's at. I mean, obviously, I'm not a Georgian at all, but I'm assuming that's AM radio. That's got to be AM radio because all of the talking points is if conservative states are doing bad, then let's talk about Democrat-run states. Why? The discussion is not about whether or not what the Democrats are doing. The discussion was about Republican-run states in reference to what he said about higher education. You can't talk about higher education when the states that you support are all failing. What are you talking about in this area? What does violence have to do with the education?
Yeah, crazy. You just can't wait to go
Unbelievable.
to Chicago, Detroit. And this is where we at, Nego.
Unbelievable. These guys are sitting here just using the same talking points, same playbook, garbage. This video gets worse as it goes on. But anyway, this is pretty bad. This is pretty bad right here. All right, guys, go ahead.
Now what do we do?
Yeah, here's what we do.
Well,
Number one, you attack it at the root.
Vote Democrat. No, we vote Democrat. I'm asking you.
The root is policy. Shelley,
Okay,
the
so
root
we
has
vote
to be
Democrat.
policy.
I can stop crying by voting
Name
Democrat.
a policy.
Unreal.
Where have you heard that at? What have they done for me? Give me a list of what the Democrats done for me. Give me a list. It's like, bro, listen, you get to keep up with this stuff like everybody else. Like, he act like, well, give me a personal press conference. No, we're not gonna do that. It's your own personal responsibility to keep up with this stuff. Like, come on,
because he sounds just like Tyrese, man. You know, when he was crying on that YouTube video. What more do you want from me? You know, that sort of that sort of approach. And he is doing whatever he can to not vote for the left. That's all it comes down to. Now he says he voted for Warnock and Ossoff, but when it comes down to policies, it's well, the solution is to vote Democrat. Yeah, because the position that you're presenting is that, well, we need to focus on higher education. Well, guess what? The very conservative states that you're trying to promote this idea, these conservative states all fail when it comes to education. So you can't promote that without actually looking at the state body politic itself.
Yeah, what's going on, DC? Yeah, but this is where we are because we got to have this anti-intellectual means testing where you have to accept all black opinions to any sort of conversation when it talks about progress, when they're not even interested in the subject at all. It's the same playbook. Yeah. And I'm just going to keep doing it to keep nailing it home. Whenever you hear helmet dudes talk about, level arguments, like you can easily look up statistics, but it's just way too easy just to start. That's it. That's all they got. There's progress that's happening. Let me walk in with my head down like battering ram and just go ahead and just hulk my way through it. Bring no facts, bring nothing to the table. All I do is disrupt the conversation. And these are the people that you got to work with. Then you got to work with the people who are really not on your side. This is nuts.
Let's see. Just name a policy that has transformed the social and economic outcome.
School choice. I just named it.
Give me your percentage of school choice and how it changed the outcome.
Well, it gives parents who want their kids to learn an option without having to go to the public school that they're forced to go to. So by giving them an option, they have now better choices to make for their children.
Now he says school choice, and now he's going to ask him a very good question about how do you measure that?
Let me answer the question.
Yeah, brother. I'm going to absolutely provide another follow-up question to you. Come on, Shelley.
I said school choice. That's my answer.
Okay. What percentage of jurisdictions are able
I have
to
no idea, Scott.
You don't know. All right.
It sounded good. Sounded good.
It sounded good.
Yeah, up until you have to actually provide the data, can't provide the data.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go to blackdemographics.com. It would have provided the data for you. You came unprepared. Just like Brandon Tatum yesterday, no idea what the process was. Former law enforcement official, biggest black male conservative voice in the space, can't answer simple questions. What's the data behind school choice? I don't have all that. I don't know about all that. All right, man. All right, man.
So how are you supposed to measure something if you can't define it? Unreal.
You asked me for a policy, and I said school choice.
Let me tell you a massive policy. A massive policy would be what President Obama did by making sure that K through 12 education had more funding. That is a good dynamic policy.
I have no problems with that.
Educators.
I have no problems with that.
Well, great. I'm glad. So you
Governor
need to
Kemp
talk
just
to
gave
your
a
Republican
raise to
colleagues
teachers.
and tell
Governor
them to
Kemp-
stop defunding K through 12 education.
That's not happening.
That's what you should.
That's not happening here in Georgia. It hasn't.
Okay, so which one is it? You understand it, you like it, but when we get specific about what's happening here, you say, "Oh, no, none of that's happening here." It's crazy, man. Like you can't win with these dudes because they don't understand the actual situation. But they're paid to come out here and stall the actual process of moving forward because most people have this lunacy idea that you're supposed to get everybody together in the room before you move forward. Like, no, you go with the people who are ready. Yeah, Mike.
No, I was just gonna say, he knows all the headline talking points, everything that's gonna get attention, school choice, and top Democratic cities for violence and things like that. He knows all of these sort of attention-grabbing headlines, but when it comes down to the intricate details, he runs out of gas really quick, and that's part of the reason why you can't organize with these guys on the right, because they're all shills for the party itself, but nothing after that. And so you had two of your primary conservative constituents who was running for office that snubbed you. You have all these talking points about policy, but when it comes down to the intricate details, you're full of hot air, man. There's nothing there. It's all empty. It's all empty rhetoric.
I mean, he's trying to make it look like, look, I could just drive to the other end of the city and go to a better school, and that's going to give me a good outcome. Yeah, what if you just can't get over there? Then what?
And it's about not choosing a public school, too. Because public equals left, and left equals bad.
Unreal. You go?
Yeah, these guys have no substance to anything that they talk about. Their talking points are just that, talking points. There's no substance, no research, no empiricism, no empirical data, nothing laying down any to support any of their positions. Nothing. That's we've seen here in this space. You're seeing it here, literally, in this, on the public airways. That's what these guys are about. That's it. That's what they're about. Weak. This is extraordinarily weak that we're looking at. Extraordinarily.
All right, move on for the last 54 seconds of this, and then we're gonna have our closing thoughts, and then we're gonna get up out of here.
Happened over the 4 last legislative sessions. So let's keep going.
It happened with Donald Trump by taking away money from the federal TRIO program, and he took money away from the from Upward Bound, which was the catalyst,
and gave it to other more viable programs.
So you're okay with defunding money from children? Okay,
I'm okay with
that's okay with you.
I'm okay with moving money from programs that don't work.
Oh, that was moving money. It's not defunding.
That's what I just said.
When y'all do it to children, it's just defunding when you do it to the police.
I just said he moved it to programs that worked.
Come on, man. I appreciate you, man. I'm getting the rap.
I gotta go. Mark Aaron's getting ready to come on WSB Radio 95.5. I'll be on tonight at 9 p.m.
Mark Aaron. You tell him I said that too.
All right.
This man.
Come on here and promote somebody else's show. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, because he already lost, so you figure, well, let me throw this La Hurrah in there. But the thing is, the thing is, he says that Trump took money from programs that didn't work to programs that did work, but he can't name the program. We know that Upward Bound has been a staple in academic development for the last 30 plus years. As long as I've been alive, it's been a staple. Everybody who went to public school went through Upward Bound. What are you talking about? Like, that's what got a lot of Black people through K through 12. What are they talking about? Pell Grants, Trump cut that.
Yeah.
During his administration, he cut the Pell Grants. That's why post-secondary education enrollment went down, because they could not. Those Pell Grants were key staples for Black people to actually get through their first semester, their first year of college. You needed that Pell Grant. Go ahead,
On the go? Got anything?
No, I think this really speaks for itself. This was shameful, but this is what we're looking at here on the on this right side on these talking points with respect to their playbook, and it's extremely weak. This was picture perfect example of what this is about and what's going on. We see in this space, we even see it on the big public airwaves. This is where we're at with this.
No, the other aspect is that during Trump's administration, he gave more money to the military than and then cut the spending on public education and public works. So how can you say that Trump diverted money from the old programs that did work to programs that would work better, but can't name the actual program? Where's the data on it? Oh, I don't have the data right now. Oh, all right, man. You have a really nice day.
Like, yeah, man, like, why would I bring data to the conversation? That's your job. And guess what? Your data's wrong. Go back and do a little bit more research. Why do no research at all?
Yeah. I mean, this is the biggest black male conservative voice in the state of Georgia and could not provide the facts. So what exactly are you telling your audience all this time? What are you telling them? Oh, school choice is good, and we just need more school choice. Really? What about the infrastructure? you have a choice to go to another school, but is the infrastructure any different? Because Trump didn't provide any money for the infrastructure, to my knowledge, right? And so it sounds good to say school choice. It sounds good to say let's talk policy, but then when it comes down to the metadata, can't provide the metadata, even though it's right at your fingertips.
Yeah, it's just that, look, the policy is going to shape the environment. Look, if you gave Section 8 to straight A students and gave them a stipend for living to get through school, to straight A students who went through the system, who didn't do anything wrong, regardless of how they look, dude, you have a better outcome all across the board, because those people are not going to pay for school. They're not going to pay for housing. They're not going to barely even pay for food. And they're going to have an easier way transitioning into the workforce where they're going to get that money back within 5 or 6 years.
Are you talking about post-secondary school? Or are you talking about K through 12?
No, I'm talking about post-secondary school.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's what the dormitories are for.
Yeah. No, but what I'm saying as a policy, I want people to get Section 8 and food stamps and all that shit when you're actually in school. That's better than paying for somebody who's sitting around not doing shit. I mean, the policy is going to shape the environment. Once you start cutting it back, you're like, look, once you have one kid, it's over. You're not going to be able to have it for more than one kid. And the people who actually get out of school, they're actually not going to be on it forever. They're going to be in it for 4 or 5 years, and they're going to be out of it. And then there's going to be an influx of tax money coming in from the sales tax and everything that they buy and buying a house because now they can get a better job. It's a better deal to actually incentivize productivity.
But you don't have enough housing, for students. That's one of the biggest challenges, right? So how do you need housing, right? And that's where dormitories come in. But if you don't pass an infrastructure bill for that, you're not going to get the development out of it. These guys don't understand what you're saying. I agree. The subsidized housing, not Section 8, but subsidized housing makes a lot of sense. If the person is filing and paying for school themselves, a lot of the times, a lot of the white students actually, have their schooling paid for by their parents, so they wouldn't qualify for that, and so they'll probably file a discrimination suit. But I understand the point that you're making. The biggest problem here is the infrastructure at the end of the day. Yeah. Not enough housing for all of these students, not enough housing for all of these civilians, and the cost of living due to inflation from the Reagan administration has skyrocketed. They never really corrected it. A lot of people, that's why I posted the video on the Progressive Brothers podcast to show that the spending that Reaganomics was doing back then could not handle the inflation that was going to come later. and that inflation actually hurt Black people as a whole. So to try to push this trickle down economics onto people in 2021, we saw that playbook before, man. That we saw the movie. We don't need to see the sequel.
Man, look, dude, like people are offering $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 over the amount posted for selling a house. These dudes with no skills, they don't even have a shot at home ownership. If you have the more productive people of society owning the actual homes, I mean, yeah, it's going to be a problem. Gentrification is going out of control. Like there is not a place in like Aurora or Denver to where those people haven't been kicked out of those former communities. All that stuff's way upscale now. Everywhere.
Yeah,
and nobody's building no affordable housing. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, because if you look at Singapore, and we kind of talk about this before, 80% of the civilians in Singapore live in subsidized housing by the government. I mean, that's just the way how they run it, because it's impossible to keep up with the cost of living. And you can't own a car there. Everybody pretty much rides public transportation. So they understand the significance of how to run a more progressive society from a technocratic and socialist standpoint. But to these guys, well, I just believe in school choice. Yeah, but the issue is bigger than school choice. The issue is bigger than school choice. If you're saying that education is the thing that we need to pursue, and you have the top failing states for K through 12 academia are conservative run, it falls flat on its face to put that as an argument, because the very people that you're supporting don't actually care too much about that. You think Purdue or Loeffler, you think they cared about that? No, they came and got their check and they were out of it. So, and they didn't even do an interview with you. It shows, and you're the biggest voice in the state. I'm not seeing it, man. I'm not seeing how these guys, can really galvanize what they consider to be the Black and Latino vote for the conservative movement, when they can't even present, the biggest voice can't even present, basic data critical to making the choice on which party to vote for.
Yeah, Black choice. Like it was that way in Germany too. You can own a car, but if you want to pay that $11 a gallon for gasoline, all right, man. Yeah, you go ahead. That's the way it was. So, you go. I don't hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, this.
All right, well, we're about to get up out of here. Mike, you got any last words before we get up out of here?
Hey, thanks for having me on, man.
All right, cool. All right, Nagal, you got any last words before we get up out of here on this specific topic and point? Yeah, your mic's in and out, man. All right, I want to thank you guys for coming through. Politics isn't hard. Politics is never hard at all. It's very simple. There's only about 10 or 11 issues on each side of the actual coin. The actual news is very easy to get. But when you bring people to the conversation who doesn't really care about the outcome, but they're insistent on being a part of the conversation itself, it's kind of hard to move forward. It's kind of hard to move forward because a lot of people like shit the way it is, man. A lot of people like shit the way it is. And they need a broken environment in order for them to succeed. And I'm just going to show you that these people got the same playbook. The people who don't want to show up, who don't show up talking about policy, they got the same playbook. Because I'm telling you, if you want to argue with a conservative professor about foreign policy, them people come to play. Let me tell you, you can't BS your way through an actual argument with a conservative professor that knows everything about foreign policy on their side. They would never be around these type of guys. They don't even go anywhere near these type of guys for conversation. again, people who talk about all types of things on the conservative side, they're not around these entertainers, man. The entertainers are a group unto themselves. This is why when you take the entertainer out of the entertainment space and bring them into the tangible world where they actually have to cite facts and statistics and the actual outcome that they actually want to go for, they're lost. Because pandering to people isn't really that hard of a job, but actually providing a pathway towards tangibles. Yeah, I'm sorry, Lawrence guy. All right, man. But yeah, that's what this is. And next up, we're going to have CJ Pearson. So that way you can see what happens when you are a younger guy who bring nothing to the table, who is nothing but a rag doll for people who pay you lots of money. And all they do is gaslight and gish gallop their way through every single conversation. Dude, I'm telling you. Dude, I am telling you, dude. An actual neocon knows foreign policy. Like you wouldn't believe. They're very sharp, very crisp with it. like you want to argue foreign policy, man. Like one of them foreign policy conservatives can really eat your ass up if you don't know what you're talking about. So I want to thank you guys for coming through. Like the video before you get up out of here. I'm the man Jamal. And you guys have a really nice day. Peace. I'm just breaking down the nonsense so that way you can understand when people are talking about politics and they're not really talking about the issues. They're talking about how good or bad something is, and they're not really talking about policy. They're just full of that nonsense.